But I just think that it's interesting to really look at that, because, you know, when you talk about politics, it's like, well, what does this have to do with business? Everything. Business is funding politics. And this is extremely important, because when you talk about taxes, the politicians make that. When you're talking about government regulation, when you're talking about everything that has to flow through business, for business to actually be able to run, is governed by government. So it would make sense that business would have a strong interest in politics and vice versa. And it would also make sense that every single interest group would have a strong interest in politics. So I say that to say, this is something that Black people have to start to fully understand, right? Yeah. This is, if your top priority is furthering your agenda, well, the only way to do that is through money. So it's yeah, I mean, you can't get mad at what AIPAC is doing. That's their priority. Obviously, the name of their pro-Israel situation. So of course, they're going to do everything possible to be on 100% side of Israel. That would make sense, because they're looking out for their own interest. And every single person does that. Every group does that. Absolutely. So what we have, I think we haven't fully understand how politics work. We've been told to just vote. Like we got put on the vote path, where it's like, okay, you can vote your way into prosperity, or you can vote your way into change, or you can march your way into change. And what ends up happening is that votes are important, because you do need to elect a candidate, but the people with the money, they use voting blocks. So we are a large voting block, and we usually vote for one particular party. So
and give away our vote for free, not to cut you off.
Exactly. So they'll use our voting block, because it's important, to get the candidate elected, but the candidate will never do anything for said voting block, because there's never any financial pressure on said candidate. So now you have a cycle of small groups of money that use voting blocks to get a candidate elected, and then they put money in the candidate and they threaten the candidate, and the candidate does what they want them to do. And
soft persuasion.
And if not?
So I say that to say, we do have a voting block. That's important, but we don't have economic power when it comes to finances. So it would be beneficial to work on the economic power structure with the voting block. Now you're in a position to actually start to see some things happen that are in your best interest. And you have to be selfish on a certain point. Can't always look out for everybody else's interest, because nobody's looking out for your interest. True. Just being honest with you. So, you know, it's good to try to save everybody, but you can't save anybody until you save yourself.
Yeah. And we have to know what our interests are. That's a whole nother thing, right? Yeah. Like
we have to agree on it.
We have to agree on what are the things that we want to see change. What are the things that we want to see improved? What are the new initiatives? What are the new policies that we want to put in place? Can we agree on that? Like, that's a step, right? Before we do all that, like, what's the agreeing?
What's the top 3 issues for Black America? Put in chat. What do you think, Ian?
Number 1 would be financial freedom. Number 2 would be
if we were to lobby, let's say we had a very powerful Black super PAC right now, right? And we were pushing agendas, and we wanted 3 votable items. For this election. What would be those top 3 votable items?
RFK told us reparations are off the table.
Not gonna happen.
not gonna happen. And they were so mad at that. I'm like, do you want the truth or no? If
not gonna happen.
Those comments bothered you, you're not ready for the conversation with Council on Foreign Relations or Economic Forum. But for me, it would be financial freedom or economic equality.
But how do you get economic? That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you do that? How do you get to like what bill would be passed? All right, so let me get so my 3 would be reparations, criminal justice reform.
Yep, I like that one.
On a variety of different levels. Yep. And the last one would probably be education reform.
Okay. How would you reform education?
I would.
Do we agree with that?
I would change. Like, let's say I was a king of America, right? And I could just wave a wand and do whatever I want.
The narcissist in you is coming out, Rashad. You say that about us.
I would change the so how public schools are funded right now is based off of property taxes per said area.
Yep.
Which obviously, if you live in a wealthy area, then you pay more property taxes and your schools are better. If you live in a poor neighborhood, there's less property taxes and your schools are better. I would put it all in one pot and divide it equally. Right. Or let's say there's $100 billion that's paid in property taxes in New York. I would put it all in one pot and I would divide that equally to every school.
Yeah. All right. What inside of reparations?
What other things I would do as well?
What inside of reparations? What would be the first thing inside of reparations? Is it land? What is it?
Well, it's going to be difficult to do the land thing.
Unless they put us in like
Wyoming,
Montana, Idaho.
There's a lot of livable space.
No, it's a check. It's a check. I think it's a check. That's the easiest way to go about it. I think it's a check.
We'll bankrupt the world.
Yeah.
That's the part that's tough. Like really quick, can someone put in chat if reparations were a check was given? What's the number that's given in today's dollar?
Once you say that, I know like there's people that's thinking like it's a Chappelle episode to get all over, right? Like we got money.
But
like
once again, Ian, it's not an all or nothing thing, though.
Yeah.
It's not an all or nothing thing. It's not like you gotta give 100 trillion. You like. I feel like
let's say they give 200 billion. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it does set a precedent that now the companies that were built, New York Life, the other companies that were built off the backs of slavery, they would have some issues about market cap shrinkage because then those companies would have to be divvied up. A lot of banks would have to be divvied up, or they would collapse a whole lot of banks at one time. The other thing I thought, even when Chanos collapsed his fund, what's the easy way to get out of being in the hedge fund business? To say all of my gains went down and go opposite of the market. So I think even if they did cut the checks for reparations, all of a sudden, how we saw these mid-sized banks go under, all of a sudden banks will flop. VC firms will flop to level set us to not pay us out. And that's why, if nothing else, I respect the RFK so much for saying, essentially, it's illegal to give reparations. I agree with your point about being all or nothing, but it's a bad precedent to be set. I keep saying, a upper respiratory infection in 2020 sent to us by Lina dropped our GDP 20%. They get to cutting us checks. It's going to be tough. And let's be honest, I can divide one every two. The money's not there.
Yeah. But even inside that conversation, now the conversation would have shifted to like who qualifies for that check, right? Right. So then it gets.
What you mean who qualifies for it?
Who receives a check?
Black people from America.
Because they're going to say
that's an easy answer.
You were not a descendant of a slave.
Right. Like,
why not?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that people who might say like, are you a descendant of a slave, right? So like, if I trace my ancestry back, it might go to Jamaica via England.
Yeah, but that's not you.
That's what I'm saying. Who?
Your parents are immigrants, so you would be disqualified.
Thank you.
I'm not sure about Ian's. I'm not sure about Ian's background. What's your background, Ian? Are you?
I'm half black, half crazy. Put crazy in chat if you think I'm crazy.
Black, half crazy.
Family, Alabama.
But yeah, all right. So me and Ian would get a check. You got to
clip this up.
You got to take
Ian and Rashad plan to take over.
You got to take your claim up with the UK. You guys should be get checks too, but you got to take the British got to give you guys checks.
I should fight for you though. Fight with you.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
How about you?
Solidarity. For sure. That's it. It's not complicated. It's not a complicated conversation to have, bro. We're making this more complicated than it needs to be. I'm just saying,
well, people have to agree. It's interesting. I was going to say, and Ian, we didn't get yours, but I was going to actually say education reform, but you said it. I thought you might have said something, just knowing you, I thought you would have said something in business in the way lending is.
I mean, I thought that would have been yours. Healthcare, we got health.
I think we need business development in the tech sector.
Right.
We need an integration into Silicon Valley. Because that's where all the capital is going.
Because I mean, we talk about venture capital and we talk about the lack thereof of how much is allocated toward us, making policies, making initiatives around that. To have small business funding, like that changes, right? If we're talking about economics, how do we get it? We create business. We know that, right? Being an entrepreneur, creating businesses that scale is one of those ways to financial freedom. So we can have a say inside of political initiatives and world. So I thought that would have been on yours. I'd add that because.
But how you feel about my property tax thing?
I think that's fire.
That makes sense.
No, that's real.
That makes sense to me.
That's real.
Yeah. Why are we rewarding people that are already rich? Like the rich get richer, right? Like we're already, obviously you just putting people in a lower, and nobody's ever questioned that. Like just because you're born in a poor environment, you're forced to have a lower level of education. And this is supposed to be America. Like, why don't just have it, just everybody gets the same education? Like that's.
If I can take the other side of that argument in God's advocate, shout out to 19 Keys. In order to have classism and to truly have wealth in this country, you need a disproportionate amount of the people to be in poverty.
For sure.
Right. It's
that's just the hard truth.
The unfortunate side of the reality.
It's the caste system, right? Shout out to YouTube. We hit 5,000 people. And shout out to all the Jamaican massive.
yo, that's it, bro.
I don't want the shower posse.
Listen, next time he come to get Aki and Sawfish, dead him. Next time he try to get some,
hey, bro, what's up with that?
Yo, give him the stink face.
Shout out to all my Jamaicans.
I fight for us.
Listen, I said that one thing about New York people. Hey,
I fight for us.
Appreciate y'all. Y'all gotta holler at King Charles, man. King Charles, do the right thing. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to it. The moment
they do Meghan Markle right. You think they're gonna do us right? Shout out to Meghan and Harry.
Markle.
She may need to go back to Suits. She got away with that Spotify bag. Speaking of Spotify, can I touch on this real quick? Did you see that Spotify is going to try to start suing the labels because the number of users that was reported are not real?
No, I ain't
Speaking of musical gangsters, Daniel, I want to put out a PSA to you. The music industry is run by gangsters from top to bottom. I know you are upset about the streaming farms in China. You're going to end up in the stream if you try and sue. You thought Wale went through something. Hey, you barking up the wrong tree. Oh. Stop. Every shot, I'm going to stop too, Troy. I'm going to stop too. See, I'm dialing it in. Punchy.
Oh, man. Good commentary there. Good commentary.
These are just jokes written by 85 South, DC Young Fly, Chico Bean, and some more. If I made you money, please put yes in chat.
He's added some more to it.